I joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service in 1941, not knowing which trade I wanted to go in for. And I was interviewed by an intelligence officer who, after about half an hour, he said, "Well, get yourself to Bletchley." I'd never heard of Bletchley, but I did get myself there, and was horrified to find that I had to read and sign the Official Secrets Act, which is a formidable document, to say the least. Anyway, I did, and then I realized that I would be cut off from my family and friends as far as communication is concerned for until 1975.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And of course, you had a bit of connection with Germany, interestingly, because you spoke German,
Yes,
but you'd been on an exchange right when Hitler was at his most powerful, just before war broke out.
Yes, absolutely amazing. I don't understand why my parents and the German family didn't realize the possible dangers. But anyway, I went over in 1937 on an exchange visit with a German girl, and lived with her family, and went to school in Herrnhut, which was the village where we were living, for about 3 months. And it was at the time when the Hitler regime was beginning to boil up, if you like.
And did the German family want you to be part of the Hitler Youth? Did I read that?
Oh, no, there was no question of that. In fact, the family were obviously very much against what they could see coming. They were very upset about it.
Right. So, but presumably you now look back and you think, my goodness, I was there in the Third Reich as it was all building up to war.
Yes, I was. Yes.
And the daughter had to go to the Hitler Youth every Sunday.
Oh, that's
she?
right. Yes, the daughters of the house, I'd forgotten their ages, but they were quite young, 11 and 13, I think. And they had to attend what was known as the weekday Mädels, Bund Deutscher Mädels, and they had to attend every Sunday morning. They never told us what they were doing and what had been said to them.
Goodness. Now, I'm going to hold up Tessa's book here, which is called Army Girls, and it's got some of these accounts in it of Betty's life and others. This amazing generation, some of whom we still have with us happily, and you've done a great job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tessa, of interviewing them and hearing their stories. And, of course, this was a big moment for Britain in about 1941 where we, or Churchill, decided we need women in the army, effectively.
Yeah, well, this was a Churchill U-turn, actually, because most of Churchill's biographers are men. They skip over this bit. But he didn't want to conscript women, to draft women, and was hoping people like Betty, who was actually a volunteer, weren't you, before conscription?
Yes, I was, yes.
You got in the nick of time. He was hoping that could remain the case. But just before America enters the war, Britain's got its back against the wall. He concedes and he addresses Parliament. He leads the debate. You know, women between the ages of 20 and 30 initially, the ages then drop to 19, are going to have to be drafted. And the glamorous options are either you go into a military service, and probably there's only going to be room for you in the ATS, the female army, or you can go into a munitions factory, because they felt it was too much to ask girls, to force girls into uniform. That was really contentious, the idea of young girls leaving home in uniform. But the irony is, Jeremy, the reason why Churchill and the War Office didn't want to conscript women, it wasn't about women's safety. They were worried it would demoralise the men.
Storm.
Oh, Tessa, you got to
Well,
love
I
you.
don't think I demoralised anybody.
I'm sure you did. Listen, Storm's got a question, Betty.
Well, I just think it's fantastic because we're terrified that we lose these stories. So it's great that we can speak to somebody like yourself, Betty. I'm wondering what it was like in Bletchley Park at the time. What was life really like?
Well, it was jolly hard work, because the amount of enemy signal traffic, that is signals, which came in at the height of the operation, probably at the rate of 10,000 a day. There was an awful lot of signals to register and then be decoded and translated. It was an ongoing exercise, 24 hours.
So, but what would your day be like? How long would your day be?
Well, it depended. We had a tier system, 8 to 4, 4 to midnight, or midnight to 8. And then in between, we went to our billet and refreshed ourselves.
It's got to be said that the billets weren't always the most comfortable.
No.
And Betty's currently having a sleepover with me here in London. And the domestic quarters aren't maybe quite what they should be. And she said breezily this morning, age 98, "Don't worry, I'm used to poor living quarters from the war." You were only 18 then, Betty.
What about relations
Sorry,
with...
I think that was a very undiplomatic thing to say.
What about relations with the men, Betty? Were they quite excited to have women among them suddenly?
Well, you see, most of the men were in uniform and were not involved in such operations as the Bletchley one, and we outnumbered the men 3 to 1.
Wow.
But then in the Pentagon, because Betty was then seconded, the only ATS girl, to rock up in the brand new Pentagon, and there was a lot of men there, wasn't there?
Oh, yes, it wasn't quite the same situation there.
And you saw Eisenhower?
Yes, I did. Yes, General Eisenhower came to the Pentagon after he'd finished his job in Europe, and he came in on a tank, and we were able to see him in the quadrangle of the Pentagon. And which was quite an experience.
You said you had to sign the Official Secrets Act. I think I heard a story that one of the officers put a gun on the table when he asked you to sign it, because just to impress on you this was serious. Did you ever tell your parents what you were doing in the war?
No, absolutely verboten. Really? We could not tell anybody what we were doing or where we were. Actually, my parents had no idea. And I was not able to... oh, yes, I could telephone to them, but they could not telephone me.
Did they ever find out?
No, because my parents died before I was at liberty to speak about what I'd been doing.
Well, that's Betty, one of your great sadnesses, isn't it?
It is, yes, and it happened to many of us.
Yeah, well, Betty, it's lovely to talk to you, and particularly on this special day, and to hear your story, which is told in Tessa's book. Thank you, Tessa, as well.
Thank you.
Take care. All the best, Betty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We forgot to mention the WRC Association.
Oh, go on. Go on, mention.
Can we just? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, but Betty, by the way, in terms of living history, you are still the president of your local...
of the Birmingham Women's Royal Army Corps Association, which is a very active association, and we want to keep that flag flying.
Yeah, that really must be said. I've been so struck by the sense of belonging. The WRAC Association, all service women, currently serving, those who have served, spans 10 decades, basically. And it's been remarkable just holding them together in one national crisis and then in this COVID times as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, what about that?
What an amazing woman.